Thank you everyone for joining us. As you know, we are partnering with the El Centro FFA Ag Careers Explorer Committee to bring you a variety of speakers and guests to tell us about careers in ag. You know, not everyone's going to be a grower, but there are many, many hundreds of occupations that support the ag industry and that are necessary in order for the production of food and livestock to go on. So many of our speakers have been in that particular realm. Also, studies are showing that there are not enough students studying agriculture to fulfill the amount of jobs that are going to be coming up in the future. So we need students studying ag and learning about meaningful careers in order to fulfill those positions. All right, so I have a little bit of an opening slide. I hope this amuses Bill and Daniel. We have Farm Credit West today with us. And they're going to share a little bit about farm credit, but mostly about themselves and their role in preparing for an industry in ag finance and business. I have Mr. Bill Collins, who is the Senior Vice President and Branch Manager of the Imperial Valley Branch of Farm Credit West, and Daniel Litz, who is a Vice President and Loan Officer of also Farm Credit West. So Stacey's going to show the screen. It tells you a little bit about what they have to deal with on a regular basis. This is a person coming in for a loan. They say, I'd like an all-natural, hypoallergenic, gluten-free mortgage with a low carbon footprint, prepared with recycled soil ink in a peanut-safe environment. So they have to have a lot of specialization for what they do, and they're going to share with us today. So take it away, Bill.
Okay, well, thank you for having us. Yes, both Daniel and I work with Farm Credit West. We're part of the Farm Credit System. Farm Credit System is a nationwide network of borrow-own lending institutions that was formed by Congress in 1916. Each institution has is member-owned. It has its own set of directors. Our association is probably the fourth largest in the nation. We have managed assets of approximately 10.8 billion. Our headquarters is in Rockland, California. We cover most of California and all of the state of Arizona. We do obviously have an office here in Imperial Valley. The branch size locally is about 500 million in managed assets. I've been with the association for about 32 years, have been in ag lending for close to 39 years. Prior to that, I grew up on a table grape ranch in eastern Coachella Valley. Coachella Valley is 90 miles to the north of us. It encompasses Indio, Palm Desert, Palm Springs. As a high school student, I studied your college prep classes, math, science, English. I actually obtained an AA degree in wildlife biology because I wanted to be a game warden, but quickly figured out that didn't pay what I wanted to earn and realized that you could be assigned to an area that I may not necessarily want to live in. So I fell back to that area which I was most comfortable with, which was agriculture. So I went to Pomona, received my undergraduate degree in Agribusiness. After graduating, returned to Coachella Valley and went to work for a small business, agribusiness, farming operation, table grapes, lemons, dates, and asparagus. Idea was that I wanted to be an owner-operator of my own farming company, but farming is quite capital intense, meaning it takes a lot of money. One day which I didn't have, one day I was reading about Wells Fargo Bank opening a regional commercial banking office in Brawley. And I thought, well, you know, a couple years experience in the banking industry might help me figure out how to obtain the capital I didn't have and make me a more successful owner-operator. So I sent him my resume with a cover letter telling him, you know, I think my combination of work experience and education would be a good match for you. And they agreed. They called me and said, hey, you sound like a self-starter. And they made me a job offer. So my wife and I moved to Imperial Valley, where we've been since. I worked for Wells Fargo for 6 years and have been with the farm credit system since then. Never did get into, and the idea was we were only going to be here a couple of years, but we've been here for almost 40 years now. But the career in ag lending has actually been quite rewarding, both professionally and for opportunity through the employment to continue my education with graduate level programs at the Pacific Coast Banking School in Seattle, Washington, and also with executive leadership programs that the employer has been willing to pay for as I've been promoted and progressed in my career. And both at Wells Fargo as well as Farm Credit, they do have tuition reimbursement programs. So if I had chose to, they would have reimbursed me for an MBA, but it was a personal decision not to follow that career path or not to obtain an MBA. But I've had those opportunities. And quite frankly, I had the opportunity to get back in farming while continuing my career in Farm Credit West. I mean, a lot of my customers have extended me the offer to partnership either in cattle or the purchase of farmland or in joint ventures, whether it's in alfalfa, wheat, or other cropping programs. Some cases I would not have been able to do that because it would have been a conflict of interest. Some cases I chose not to do that because on a personal level, I might have been risk adverse, but those opportunities are there. One thing about ag lending, I will say that I don't always hear at the high school or the college level careers talked about in ag finance, but like I said, both personally and professionally, it has been rewarding personally. These jobs do tend to pay well. The salaries can be in the six figures, $100,000 or more, depending what level you reach. Professionally, we do have the opportunity to go out, and in fact, it's part of what we call your performance evaluations, where employees are actually encouraged to go out and meet with farmers. So you have that opportunity to get out into the farm and visit with the growers, see what's going on with their operations, so you're not stuck inside the office. But you know, here locally, we think we're in a small valley, but we do have agribusinesses that have gross sales in excess of $100 million. And so we do have financing packages that are approaching $100 million in borrowings. And so that's quite large. And so those are complex packages, which do take a lot of work and which are quite interesting actually to work on, and where you become an integral part of those operations. So
Bill, I'm gonna kind of wrap up your segment right now, and I really appreciate your sharing with us how you got to where you are so far. And we're going to let Daniel share a little bit about how he came to be at Farm Credit and his story. And then we'll both have you both back on for Q&A.
Thanks, Stephanie. Hi, I'm Daniel Litz. I grew up in Imperial Valley. I'm a Calexico native, so I graduated Calexico High School in 2008. My job here is a loan officer / lender. I'm in the customer-facing role. I've been here just about 8 years. My primary responsibilities: originating loans, servicing our customers. That's from financial analysis to setting up terms and conditions to monitoring existing loans that we have on the books, including trying to obtain new business. So we wear multiple hats, to say the least. It's very interesting. There's not really a whole lot of downtime around here. We're always busy, and that's year round. So that's what my average day here at Farm Credit looks like. I'm either underwriting on the phone with customers or doing some kind of financial analysis. So there's always something to do around here. I think Bill hit on our structure, so I won't talk much more as far as what the Farm Credit system is. We're pretty unique in the fact that we're a cooperative. And that just means our customers are also our shareholders and our owners. So that's kind of a unique to us. We're the largest agricultural lender, meaning the farm credit system as a whole in the nation. And I'll tell you a little bit as far as how I got to Farm Credit. So I went to Calexico High School. At that time, I was mostly focused on my extracurricular activities, meaning I was in track, band, cross country, things of that sort. I got serious when I graduated. I actually attended IBC, did their business administration program. And I always envisioned working in accounting or finance. That was kind of my thing. I've always liked dealing with money since I was a kid. So I knew what I wanted to do. Is just how I got there. So what I did while at IBC, I basically went onto San Diego State's website, because that's ultimately where I wanted to go, and looked at the CSU pathway to transfer into it. And I've established kind of a goal to say I wanted to graduate in 2 years, and I kind of follow all their curriculum. It was mostly business administration courses, basic accounting, finance, econ, business law, stats, business calc, things of that sort. After 2 years, sure enough, I graduated and transferred on to SDSU. At SDSU, I had to choose between accounting and finance, and at that stage of my life, I chose finance. My dad was an accountant. That's how I came to like numbers at an early age. So I went down the financial path way, and actually ended up doing a lot of accounting along the way, which helped me in my career. While I was in school, I started working for a local grower, doing basic accounting functions for them. That actually turned out to work quite well for me. I didn't have any exposure to ag other than grew up around a farm, went shooting birds, and kind of spent my weekends on the farm, but I didn't really do any farming or had anybody in my family do any farming. But I knew numbers. And so early on, they helped me get some knowledge just as far as crop cycles, some of the basic yields, commodities grown in the area, things of that sort. And so when I graduated, I actually went to work full time for them. A few months later, I saw there was a post. Actually, somebody told me there was a post at Farm Credit, and I applied. I was glad I did. It was a life-changing event, that's for sure. I'm glad I did it. There's a few things that I could say that will help. Well, I think will help the average, just anybody trying to start a career. I think the most important thing is to visualize where you want to go and what you want to do, and establish that goal and try to get exposure and experience in that field. It's always important to periodically check as far as how you're doing on that goal. It doesn't matter if you have it written, memorized, whatever works for you. But I think you need to assess time to time where you're at and what you're doing to work to that goal. Along the way, I think you'll find that with hard work, and if you stay true to your path, you'll find success. It just takes dedication and determination. You don't have to be the smartest, but you do have to work hard to get there. I think some of the experience that helped me become a better employee here at Farm Credit is, as Bill pointed out, they obviously provide you with opportunities to grow and develop. They paid and they made quite an investment into my continual learning education. So I did take multiple financial courses since I've been here. I've taken some leadership courses. I've gone to seminars, industry events. They make quite the investment into the individual. So I'm very grateful for that. Things I could have done differently back in high school, I think I probably would have focused more on academics and getting more exposure to ag. I didn't do that per se. I did learn to do it after the fact, but I think getting an early start or a lead early on in your career helps, especially down the road.
Thank you, Daniel. I'm going to interrupt once again. Actually, that has been a common theme among most of our speakers about getting serious earlier. So we're come to the time of our program. Both of you have given us a great general overview of Farm Credit and what you do and the benefits of working there. Now we're going to open it up for the last few minutes, maybe about 5 to 10 minutes of Q&A.
Actually, no, business has been quite good this year. Still need to feed the nation. Imperial Valley's always been kind of a niche place when it's come to agriculture. Cattle's #1 here. We raise for slaughter primarily Holsteins. Cattle market has been pretty strong. Our alfalfa or forage products are primarily exported over to China. They've been continuing to take the forage products. We're headed into our winter produce market, so we'll see how that goes. As you know, between us and Yuma, Arizona, we grow 90% of the winter vegetable products. So if you sit down and have a salad between, say, now and March, that salad product is probably grown here in Imperial Valley. So farmers are best at adapting to changes in weather and market prices. So while there were some downturn in commodity prices, overall, guys had still managed to adapt and do pretty well for themselves.
Just wanting to know what crop you sell the most, but you don't actually sell crops, but how about finance? What crop do you finance the most?
You know, cattle is a big, cattle's considered a commodity. Cattle's one of our big crops. And then alfalfa is one of our big crops that we finance.
I know that you have students that often come into your office that maybe are representing FFA or agriculture. These kids are at the fair. What are things that they can be doing in those contexts as they're representing agriculture in our valley? Well,
obviously, around fair time, we get a lot of I get around the fair time, we get a large number of students, both FFA and 4-H, that come in asking or dropping off letters about their projects, and I'm happy to see those. For me, a big deal is that the students understand what their project is all about. And I personally really ask a lot of questions of the students. I want to make sure the students understand that it is a project, and I would expect that they know what their project is about with respect to if they have an animal, do they know what they paid for the animal? Do they know how much the cost of the feed is, what their break even is? If it's after show and they didn't place well, do they know why they didn't place well? If they got a blue as opposed to a gold, do they know why they got the blue, what they could do better going forward? Last year, we had a student came in who was in FFA, and she had an FFA shirt on, and I asked her if she knew what FFA stood for, and she said no, she didn't know what FFA stood for. She had only been in 1 year, and I thought that was really sad. So she was asking for money for her project, but she couldn't tell me that FFA stood for Future Farmers of America. So those type things are important. But I think students, if you're in an ag program, I think it's important to understand that food, comes off the farm. It doesn't come from the market. That there's a big investment. The farmers are at risk for volatility in the marketplace, food safety issues. They really are concerned about things, the care of their workers. They put a lot of time and effort in to provide food safety, to cover food safety issues, to try and help with the health and care of their employees, the safety of the consumer. There's a huge capital investment and very little return. I mean, they could take that money invested in the stock market and do much better than they could trying to grow a crop and sell it in the market. So just be aware of those issues and promoting those issues.
He wants to know things that they can be doing now in high school that will help us later in their career.
I think you should study hard. Don't be afraid to fail. Take advantage of extracurricular activities. Take advantage of any work experience that you have. If you have a job, you should probably always do your best at the job. Dress for the job that you want, not the job that you have.
She'd like to know which industry in ag, either livestock or crop production, would a grower make more money in?
It varies from year to year. When the pandemic hit, the futures market on the livestock just went absolutely crazy, and it dropped significantly. So for those people that had money invested in raising cattle, if they had those cattle hedged, meaning they had bought, they were speculating on what those cattle might sell for out in the future, then there was the potential to lose hundreds of dollars on those cattle, although the businesses who were buying those cattle and killing them to sell to the stores were actually making huge sums of money. So there's kind of a disconnect between the person who's raising the cattle and selling them and the person who's actually buying the cattle, killing them, and selling them to the market, if that makes sense. But because of the pandemic, there was creating a lot of volatility in the marketplace. Now, the guy growing alfalfa putting it in a bale and selling it to somebody who's shipping that bale overseas, they were actually, if they had that contracted already for an agreed upon price, they were making a little bit of money because they had an agreed upon price. So because of the pandemic affected those. Prior to the pandemic, guys that had cattle for sale were probably doing a little bit better than guys that were selling bales of alfalfa. Well, here in the Imperial Valley, one of the cons of livestock is that you're limited on the places you can sell cattle to be processed. We have Brawley beef in Brawley, but he has limited capacity. I'm just going to say it. He has limited capacity to process the number of cattle that we have on feed. So then those cattle have to be shipped out of state. And there's a cost to ship those cattle out of state. And the further you have to ship them, the greater that cost is. So it kind of limits the number of cattle that we could produce here in Imperial Valley. We have greater capacity to grow alfalfa, bales of alfalfa, to compress those, put them on a container, ship them over to China, Japan, Saudi Arabia. Now we're even developing markets in India. And the cost of shipping those containers, those bales, they put them in a container and shipping them to China is next to nothing. So I would say that it's from just a cost standpoint, it's probably better to be involved in raising alfalfa and exporting that into Japan, China, Saudi Arabia, and India than it is to trying to raise cattle and finding a market for that product.
But with that, we are all set. Thank you so much to Farm Credit West for joining us today and sharing your path to your career and sharing a little bit about Farm Credit. If you have any further questions, you can reach out to us and we can share their contact information with you. All right, everyone, have a great day.